You got Norm on your I'm all right. You're fine.
You're good, Josh. You're good.
I'm not even meeting her. Yes. I'll put him on Facebook.
So I wasn't going to read it. I could have tried to memorize it, but then I forget. I'm just going to read it. Growing up as brothers, we had many adventures together, from building elaborate bamboo forts to digging giant holes and filling it with water and calling it Gunda, and catching black widow spiders to feed the red ants. We had some great times as kids. Now as adults, our adventures aren't quite as exciting. The real world has come with all its pressures and trials of life. But as your older brother, I've watched a young Josh who used to carry a pink blanket around. He's become a true man of integrity, honest and unselfish. You've shown me what it is to be a man of God. Let these traits and your love for Alicia thrive in your marriage, and God will bless you both. Josh, I know you will be a great husband. Alicia, you will be proud to have my brother as your mate. He is an inspiration to many. So Alicia, I would like to welcome you to our family. So congratulations to both of you. Cheers.
Okay, it's my turn now to toast my sister. And naturally, Alicia has always been a great sister to me, but she's been a whole lot more than just a sister. She has been an advisor and an advocate and an encourager, and she's been a helper, and she has also been to me a caring comfort and a comic and a hero. And so this morning I took a long solitary walk on my parents' property to clear my mind and to think about what I might want to say tonight. And as I walked, I was reminded of all the many good memories that we have on that land. And it was there on that land that we used to play hide and go seek. It was there that we would make forts, and that we would play together, and that we'd throw snowballs at each other. And it was on that land that we would work side by side as we helped my parents clear that land.
Yeah.
And as we raked rocks out of the soil, and as we planted some gardens, and even as we nailed up some shingles over some secret messages that we'd written on the side of our parents' house. Of course, my memories of Alicia go back much further than even the time that my parents bought that property, back to Langley, where we used to dress up in similar clothing and take walks and try to convince people that we were twins. And back further yet, back all the way to before we even moved to Whidbey Island, when we learned to ride bikes together, and when we'd dress up in silly costumes. And it was around at that time, when Alicia was perhaps 6 or 7 years old, and I was maybe 5 years old, on a summer's day, much like today, that that I got a toolbox, and in that toolbox there was a hammer and some nails and a tape measure and a saw. And I wanted to cut a piece of wood, and so I asked my sister and my friend to help me cut that wood, and she agreed. And I told her then, I said, grab on as hard as you can, hold tight, and don't you dare let go. And she did. She grabbed onto that piece of wood as hard as she possibly could, and I took hold of that saw, and with all my young might, I went to work cutting that piece of wood. Unfortunately, my aim wasn't quite as good as my determination, and as the teeth of the saw hit the wood, the saw bounced and landed squarely on Alicia's fingers. I didn't have the presence of mind at the time to stop. And so I continued with my work. But instead of cutting the wood, I was now cutting my sister's fingers. She still has a scar to prove it. That is selfless commitment. Now, it's a lot like marriage. Because marriage takes a lot of selflessness, and it takes an incredible amount of commitment. And yes, there's going to be some painful times, undoubtedly. And so I would just like to say to you, Alicia, and to you, Joshua, that when those times come, I'd like to say in the words of a 5-year-old boy speaking to his sister and his best friend, grab on as hard as you can, hold tight, and don't you dare let go. I would like to drink to my sister and my good friend Alicia, and to the man that she chose to be with her from this day for as long as they should ever live. I'd like to drink to you, and may you have a friendship that is everlasting. May you have a love that is growing ever strong, and may your new lives together be truly and richly blessed.
All right, good. Everybody can hear me now, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that last toast of Paul reminded me of the first wedding that I ever performed as a young pastor. And there were 3 of us that performed that ceremony. And my part was to give the vows, for the ring vow in particular. And I had played softball with this young couple that I was marrying. And we had kidded around a lot. And I had warned them, don't you do anything to mess up because I'll laugh. So here the little guy comes down the aisle with his pillow. And on the pillow were a couple of rings. And he reached into his pocket and cut it off with a big pocket knife. And so that kind of got me chuckling a little bit. And then I followed it up by saying, take the ringer and put it on her finger. So let's hope that that won't play the case here. But I wanted to talk just a little bit about Joshua Evan Wenzing. And when I was a kid, I did not like that name, Evan. My friends used to call me Dale Evans, and that reminded me too much of somebody I didn't want to be. But then I come to find out that the name Evan had a family history to it, a family heritage. And I began to appreciate that name even more. And so when we had a son, we decided that Evan was a great name to pass on to my youngest son. And it was a son, I should say the middle name, Evan, pass on to my youngest son. And it was my middle name, it was the middle name of my father, and it was the middle name of my great-grandfather. Or not the middle name, but my first name. And so I passed on that heritage to him. And now we have also shared a spiritual heritage. And Lois and I have made it a purpose to try to guide our lives by the principles in God's Word. And we do believe that a life yielded to Christ and a life lived for Him is the best possible life. We have found it to be a great source of joy, a great source of peace, and when everything else goes wrong, it's nice to know that Christ is still head of the household. And He has made a difference in our life, He's made a difference in our family. And with that background, I want to challenge Joshua Evan, not only to appreciate his middle name, but to appreciate his spiritual heritage that we have in Jesus Christ our Lord. And to remember to love Christ, and then to follow Christ's command to love his wife as Christ loves the church. And to that, I lift the toast. I am the father of the bride, and this has been a very hard day and a very hard life at times. And my family loves the new Father of the Bride movie with, not the new one, but the old one, with Steve Martin. And for some reason, whenever Steve Martin would make some, what I thought was a fairly sensible comment about the extravagances of the marriage and weddings, they would look at me and laugh. So I don't know what that was about, but I just want to apologize here in front of everyone to my family for whatever I might have done to embarrass you or make you uncomfortable during the process of this. And in spite of all that, in spite of myself, it was a very beautiful wedding. I just want to thank the Winzicks and their family, their extended family, their friends who have, I don't know how you got so many friends to come and work on this farm and make it this beautiful, beautiful place that it is. I'm amazed. I'm amazed at these kids for their planning and singing and the friends that they've made to make this a beautiful thing. And so I'm enjoying it, and I'm thankful for that. But I want to do a toast. I'm supposed to do a toast. So, a little history. A long time ago, and I'm not supposed to say when, a surprising thing happened one summer in the Seattle area. The Seattle Supersonics went to the championship, and they won. And it was so surprising. I don't even like basketball, but I watched it because it was so odd. It never ever happened, and I guess it's never happened since. But also that year, a little bit later, something else surprising happened. Candy and I were down here during summer vacation to make some money so we could go back up to school. And Candy was 7 months pregnant, and we had just moved out of the house that we were in and had a couple weeks, I think, before we went back up north to go to school. And suddenly we found ourselves in the hospital, and Candy was having a baby, and so we called our doctor, and she couldn't make it because things were happening really quick. And so she called one of her associate doctors, and he couldn't make it because things were happening really quick. And so he called a third doctor, and he couldn't make it because things were happening pretty quick. And I was there with Candy, being a supportive husband like I always, well, I sometimes am. And the nurses maybe thought I wasn't being that helpful, and they said, well, why don't you go get a cup of coffee? Here's a free voucher for a cup of coffee. And if you go down the hall, you can get a cup of coffee. We got to do some tests on your wife and the little baby that was inside of her. And so I went out to get my cup of coffee. Well, you can imagine my surprise that after I got my cup of coffee, and I was a little nervous and a little hot. I don't do well in buildings. And so I thought I'd just step out for some fresh air. And this was at Northwest Hospital, I think, and the door clicked behind me and locked. So I'm locked out of the hospital, and it's a big campus. You have to walk about 8 blocks to get to the front door. And I made my way back in, and as I made my way back in, they said, "Oh, Mr. Hagen, you have a baby." And so I went in, and the doctor still wasn't there. And the nurse said, "Here's your baby, your little baby." And gave me this little girl who I could hold in my hand and have her completely held in my hand. I could put my fingers, like, I guess it was like that, around her entire face in her head. And I was amazed, so I took her to wherever I was supposed to take her. And we got to know her, and she survived. But it was a very surprising thing. It was nothing that we planned. I mean, we planned her, but to have her that early and to have her that little, it was nothing we planned. It was a big surprise. Josh told me about another surprise that he experienced once working on the farm, and he looked up and he saw this little girl who now became a young woman, and he said to me, "I realized I was in love with her." And I think he was a little surprised at the time. Well, that's her, yeah. So, this is a toast. In your life, you're going to have a lot of surprises. And those surprises, sometimes they're going to be good, sometimes you're going to think they are not good. But those surprises are going to shape your life. And I want you to always take hold of those surprises and realize that even though they don't give you maybe even what you hoped for, maybe even what you planned, they will give you the life that you'll love, the life that you needed, and the life that you'll end up wanting and be glad that you have. So enjoy the surprises. There'll be many of them, and have a happy marriage. Toast. Oh, I get to dance with her.
Staring at the walls, there's no sound at all. Soon you'll be gone. You'll go away. I couldn't tell you all I want to say. Just want to say goodbye anyway. Just know as you go, your love will stay. Set this place aglow with the love. To the love that you've planted, here's to the grace that you've granted. And although you'll be so very far away from me, be right here in memory, right here in memory. Shooting star, you do so much more than we'd ever talked of. That's for sure. So as you go, your love will stay. Set this place aglow with the love that you gave away. So here's to the love that you've planted. Here's to the